Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Secretary of Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labour, Marslyn Melville-Jack, and the Secretary for Finance and the Economy, Joel Jack, addressed the media.
I have recently returned from attending the 107th session of the International Labour Conference of the ILO in Geneva, Switzerland, which ran from May 28th to June 8th, 2018. However, our delegation only attended from June 2nd to June 9th, week 2 of the conference. As Secretary with responsibility for labour in the Tobago House of Assembly, and as a government member on the National Tripartite Advisory Council, I was invited to form part of the Trinidad and Tobago delegation to this conference. The other members of the delegation were Senator the Honourable Jennifer Baptiste Primus, Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, Mr. Keston Nanku, who is the chairman of the Employers Consultative Association. He represented employers, and Mr. Michael Anisette, General Secretary of NATOC, representing workers. Now, this delegation was tripartite and gender balanced in composition according to the recommendations of the ILO, that is, 2 members from government, 1 employer, and 1 worker. Now, the International Conference is the ILO's highest decision-making body. It meets annually, bringing together tripartite delegations from the 187 member states. The theme for this year was Employment and Decent Work for Peace and Resilience, and discussions focused on topics related to the world of work. Topics like social dialogue and tripartism, violence and harassment in the world of work, and ending child labour. The Honourable Minister had the distinction of addressing the conference on Monday the 4th of June, and she brought greetings from Trinidad and Tobago. She also reinforced our support for the advancement of decent work outcomes and for the achievement of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. She focused on gender equality in the world of work as not only a human right issue, but as an imperative for sustainable development. She cited our nation's support for gender parity, especially in leadership positions, and our attempt at confronting all forms of violence and harassment in the workplace. She also stated that the government of Trinidad and Tobago is continuing its work on amending labour legislation in the following ways. 1, there is the implementation of a revised national workplace policy on HIV and AIDS in Trinidad and Tobago. We've also begun the development of national policies on the prevention and elimination of child labour and on labour migration in Trinidad and Tobago. And last but not least, we have commenced consultations on the national workplace policy on sexual harassment. You must have been aware that the first leg of this consultation was held at the Trinidad Hilton Hotel Conference Room on Friday, the 1st of June, 2018. And I'm pleased to announce that the second consultation will be held in Tobago on Friday, the 22nd of June at the Magdalena Grand Hotel from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the media is invited. On Wednesday, the 6th of June, the opportunity was provided for the ministers of labour from all the CARICOM member states to meet with the ILO Director General, Mr. Ryder. However, before meeting with him, it was important for us to engage in a preparatory meeting so that we could propose areas of agreement for discussion when we met with the Director General. And our proposals were geared at suggesting ways in which the ILO could partner with member states and assist in some of the issues that affect us in the CARICOM region. So the points that we brought to the table, and this was the consensus of all the CARICOM member states, were: 1, labor market research to inform curriculum development and technical training to support this emerging digital economy. Second, the development of adaptation and mitigating strategies to build resilience as it relates to the impact of natural disasters, migration, and health issues in the workplace. And a case in point, it was just last hurricane season that so many of our territories were completely destroyed by natural disasters. So we felt it was important to engage the ILO in discussions on ways in which they could assist member states. The third point we discussed was building capacity among labor officials to manage emerging issues relating to the future of work through regional training and information exchange, even across the CARICOM region. We also requested assistance in advancing policies and programs aimed at transitioning from the informal to the formal economy. And finally, I want to say that in 2019, next year, the ILO will be celebrating its centennial year. It is going to be a very grand occasion, and their focus will be on ending violence and harassment in the workplace. And I honestly believe that it would be a feather in the cap of Trinidad and Tobago if in our opening statement to the convention in 2019, we can announce the successful passing of our national policy on ending sexual harassment in the workplace.
On June 25th, I will have the privilege as Secretary of Finance and the Economy to deliver my 6th budget presentation in the Assembly Legislature. So June 25th, 2018 is Budget Day at 10 a.m. as I outline this administration's work program for the fiscal year, and as well as I present the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure for fiscal 2019. Let me state at the onset, as I indicated the last time that I was here, that we're on the road to recovery, and that I'm very optimistic about our future as, again, when we look at the positive news, that we continue to see, or that continues to emerge on the national and on the global scene as it relates to the national economy. With reference, I can point to the price of oil and gas. Although the last time I was here, the oil price was hovering over $70. It's down to about $60. It's above the budgeted price of $50 per barrel, as well as the price of natural gas. Additionally, the recent visit by the Prime Minister to China and to the UK and to Australia, and the recent news coming out from those visits, also adds to my comfort level as well. And it also points to the fact that about trust on the government side to strengthen Trinidad and Tobago's position in the energy sector. And this is where we get our major revenue source, even as we continue to focus on economic diversification. Additionally, I am also positive because I anticipate development and investment in the tourism sector, as well as investment opportunities in real estate development, manufacturing, ICT, and again in the tourism and leisure market. And I think with these opportunities, all Tobagonians should really position themselves to make use of the opportunities. And even in addition to a number of the projects on the government side, we're seeing a level of confidence by the private sector in terms of investing in Tobago. We're seeing a number of developments and a number of major construction projects underway, and this sends the right signal. Additionally, the International Monetary Fund, in its recent outlook as of April of 2018, indicated that 2018 would be the strongest year for global growth since 2011, with expansion continuing into 2019, and with growth rates of 3.9% for both years, and this is a substantial increase from previous years. And I believe that this provides an opportunity for us to leverage this period of expansion and to implement the necessary structural changes that would mitigate against future shocks. The central bank, as well, in its recent report as at March 2018, indicated that national headline inflation was low at 0.8%, while the latest unemployment data as at the second quarter of 2017 indicated that nationally unemployment was at 5.3% and in Tobago at 6.6%. These indicators, even in the face of the national economic challenges, point to a stable economic climate. And let me see that on the Assembly side, that we are poised to execute a number of our goals during this period. And again, just to remind persons, even in the face of reduced allocation, this year's budget statement will outline the initiatives and program for the Assembly for the next 12 months. The focal areas will include support for the tourism industry, for the agricultural sectors, continued investment in human capital development, encouraging and providing support to facilitate an enabling environment that will heighten our entrepreneurial thrust and also facilitate private sector expansion. Additionally, the budget will focus on enhancing the health sector and also on housing. And this is just a snapshot of some of the focal areas in the budget. And I urge all Tobagonians and the wider national community to tune into the presentation as we continue our efforts to manage the affairs of the island. Just to remind persons that we are required by the Tobago House of Assembly Act, as some persons always ask the question, why is there a need for a budget in June? But in accordance with the Tobago House of Assembly Act, we are required to submit our estimates of expenditure and revenue by June 30th of each year to the Cabinet, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and our estimates will then be considered when the Minister of Finance delivers his national budget. So the divisions were required to submit and review and their main achievements as well as new initiatives for the upcoming fiscal year, and also to inform the budget process. We are also looking at other areas such as alternative financing mechanisms. As we have done since 2013, we have started our pre-budget survey, to assist us in ensuring that we focus on those issues that Tobagonians would like us to report on. Let me say that we remain steadfast as we continue to explore new ideas and initiatives as we look for workable solutions to advance economic development on the island. In keeping with the Assembly's mandate for greater collaboration with various stakeholders, and we have hosted pre-budget consultations, and in the past, and I'm pleased to announce this afternoon that our pre-budget consultations commenced at the Division of Finance on Monday last week, but it really took off on Monday. And we met with several of our private sector stakeholders in an effort for them to have an opportunity to inform this year's budget presentation. On Monday, the team, myself and the team from the Division of Finance, we met with the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce Tobago's chapter, and also joining the meeting was the European Business Chamber of Trinidad and Tobago. On Tuesday, I met with the agricultural stakeholders, the Tobago Agricultural Society, the Beekeepers Association, and as well as our Small and Light Manufacturing Association as well. On Tuesday afternoon, I met with the tourism stakeholders group, so the Tourism Association, the Tobago Tourism Association, and as well as the Bed and Breakfast Association. And let me say that those discussions that I've had in the earlier this week and last week, they were very fruitful, they were frank, and some of the ideas and suggestions will find their way into this year's budget statement. I'm also looking forward to discussions with some of the NGOs and youth organizations this afternoon. And let me say, I pledge my commitment to work with as many stakeholders as possible to inform the budget presentation. Let me say as well that I give a commitment to all the stakeholders that we will continue the dialogue. And in the next 3 months, ahead of the national budget presentation, prior to our meeting with the Minister of Finance, we will provide an update to the stakeholders on some of their suggestions, and as well as some of the areas that we need to focus on with the Minister ahead of his upcoming budget presentation. You might recall, just to inform persons of the theme last year and some of the budget numbers, the theme last year focused on unleashing the creative and productive capacity of our people. And just to remind persons of some of the budget numbers, in 2018, the total budget request for fiscal 2018 was just over $5 billion, $5.038 billion. The THA, the Tobago House of Assembly, was allocated just over $2 billion, $2.201 billion, a decrease of approximately 6.8% from the parliamentary allocation for fiscal 2017. For recurrent expenditure, just disaggregating some of the figures, we requested $3.198 billion, and we allocated $1.86 billion, or approximately 58.2% of our budget requests. For development program, 1.709 billion was requested, and the Assembly was allocated 315.7 million dollars, or 18.5% of our request. So that just gives us a snapshot of the budget numbers for fiscal 2018 in the past, and again, I would urge all Tobagoanians and citizens resident in Tobago and our friends in Trinidad to also tune into some of our work program for fiscal 2019, and how we propose to treat with some of the challenges and issues currently before us. Let me say as well that as I move on to the Trade and Investment Convention 2018, that plans are underway and apace for the participation of the Tobago House of Assembly in the 2018 edition of the Trade and Investment Convention. TIC scheduled to take place at the Center of Excellence in Trinidad from July 5th to the 8th. And the primary focus of the division will be to facilitate, as we have done in the past, a number of entrepreneurs and business persons, and to see if they can access external markets by forging partnerships and linkages with a number of business persons over the 4 days. Let me see that following a training exercise and an interview process, a process where we advertise and we invited persons to apply. 6 participants were chosen following a month-long training exercise. 4 of those selected also attended in 2017. Mr. Sunil Barton, agro-processing and fish-based products. Mr. Karen Duke, Tobago Media Concepts. Mr. Keston Khalid Pope, Savor the Isle Agro-Processing. Ms. Sherry Warner Richard, Seaweed Designs, Fashion. And we have 2 new entrants, Ms. Jillian John, Major's Earthly Essentials, Agro-Processing, Soaps, Beauty Products, etc. And also Mr. Reginald Andrews of Andy's Cherry Nectar. I also want to just pay special mention to Ms. Jillian John. Ms. Jillian John applied to to be a participant in 2017, and those she was unsuccessful. She used the opportunity to learn from the experience and the training session and to build her business. And she has started even supplying retail outlets in Trinidad with her products. And let me say that, let me thank the staff of the Strategic Business Unit, as we will continue to provide the support to the entrepreneurs so that their participation can be a success, and that they will engage in a number of business-to-business meetings. And we have already spoken to the Tobago Manufacturers Association, and other key stakeholders to ensure that we can provide as many networking opportunities as possible. I also want to express my thanks to the Tobago Chamber, Tobago chapter of Industry and Commerce Tobago chapter, and also to Mr. David Lamkong, to Export TT, and to the Bankers Association, and as well as the Financial Literacy Secretariat in the division, and a number of entities for their support during this training program to prepare our entrepreneurs for TIC 2018. As I conclude my my remarks, let me take this opportunity to assure Tobagoanians and citizens resident in Tobago that this administration, we will continue to work very diligently and to ensure that Tobago is well positioned to leverage all the opportunities presented at TIC and all the opportunities that continue to abound even in this challenging economic environment. I will continue to work with the central government to undertake a number of projects on the island. We, in this administration, will continue to do our part, and we give the people of Tobago our commitment that we will continue to fulfill our mandate to ensure that this island, this part of the Twin Island Republic, that we continue to ensure that the economy of Tobago is stable and that we continue to increase our contribution to national economic development.
You spoke about looking for alternative financing mechanisms. Could you just expound on that or break it down in layman's terms so that we can understand what you mean by alternative financing mechanisms?
Historically, in accordance with the Act, our funding or revenue stream comes directly from the central government. The Assembly, we raise revenue of approximately just under $250 million annually. Part of that is on behalf of the central government. And what we have to do as we seek to finance development on the island, we have to look for alternative resources. For example, in this year's budget, we asked for $1.7 billion for development program, and we received only $315 million, or just 18.5% of what we requested. What that means is that we have to look for alternative sources. When I say alternative financing mechanism, the challenge is it's more acute on the development program side, and we are looking at alternative sources, and these include bond financing, looking at our PPP, funding some of our, or I should say undertaking some of our projects via the public-private partnership modality, and as well liaising with a number of our international partners to access funding and technical assistance to execute a number of our program and projects.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending May 12, 2018.